Welcome to Chef Zone. My name is Joy Goto, and on behalf of the Chef Zone team, we're excited to have you here this evening. We're again so honored to have Chef Alan Wong lead our Onolicious Kitchen series. Chef will demonstrate his approach to cooking comfort foods and dishes without a recipe by focusing on the 5 fundamentals of flavor. Tonight, you're in for a feast. Chef will be preparing a mouth-watering prime rib as his main dish, along with a few amazing surprise dishes. These are all perfect dishes to learn to prepare for a special occasion, just like Mother's Day next month. And now, here's Chef Alan Wong.
Aloha, good evening. By the way, that's Russell Hata over there, the owner of Chef Zone. Yeah, thank you, Russell. There's a lot to talk about, okay? And a lot to do. But if anybody has a question, just raise your hand and we'll stop. I'll answer your question. And this is your evening, okay? If you don't know, I don't pass out recipes. So this could be the title of the class, Cooking with No Recipes. Primarily because, see these 5 cards here? This is kind of how I cook. And this one here is sweet. So it's not just white sugar, brown sugar, honey. It's everything that's sweet, including, like if you buy a sweet chili sauce, you're putting some sweet in your dish. Sweet and hot, okay? Sodium, not just salt, Hawaiian salt. Fish sauce, shoyu, anchovies, okay? Acid, not just citrus like lemon juice, vinegar, wine. Sometimes shoyu is acid, okay? Heat is not just, there's so many different kinds of chili peppers, and you got the liquid kind like Tabasco, Sriracha, Sambal, all of those things. Last one is bitter, okay? Things like bitter melon, radicchio. There's a purpose for these bitter things, watercress. Before I talk more about this, what they're passing around is a mamaki tea, which is cold today. Okay, I've served it hot before, and it's nice to see some of the familiar faces. And if you know, I start off with something of a beverage, and normally it has to do with well-being and good health, okay? So, I'm gonna explain how I cook the prime rib. This one is not ready, okay? It's on its journey, but I'm gonna talk to you about this one. So this guy went in at 4:30, okay? At a 200-degree oven, okay? If anybody has heard about this reverse sear technique, this is it, except it's a really large piece of meat. So imagine if this rib roast was only like 3 to 4 inches thick. I take the 200-degree oven, I season it, I let it come to room temperature, okay? And you stick it in the oven, 200 degrees, and all you're waiting for is an internal temperature of about 110, 115, okay? So you take it out, you let it rest. All that is left to do is sear it. Because if you cook it this method, it still looks raw. So you let it rest. And if you're entertaining Mother's Day, you sear it maybe half an hour before everybody eats. Okay? And one of the keys to a nice roast is how long you let it rest. Those guys been resting for 1 hour. They'll go back in. So now, when we put this in at 4:30, what temperature was it? 58 degrees. This roast was sitting outside from 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay? With the salt on it. All there is salt, black pepper, rosemary, and fresh thyme. That's all there is to it. Okay? So it went in at 58 degrees. So we'll pick a place and it's at 94. Okay? So it's about an hour and 48 minutes. Okay, so it went from 58 to, was that 94? Okay, so it's got to go back in, right? Okay. It's almost now. At 110 to 115, I want to come out. So as Joy said, this is about maybe cooking prime rib for Mother's Day. Okay, that's what this whole thing was about. Now, I'm thinking about, okay, what can we serve with the prime rib? So I thought about all these things and I realized everything had butter and cream in it, like mashed potatoes. So I thought, I got to mix it up a little bit. Got to lighten some things up. So I said, what would they do in the Mediterranean? Like Mediterranean diet. And so there's a different way of making mashed potatoes. I'm going to show you. But then there's also a roasted potato with a romesco sauce. And I'll explain that to you. Okay, romesco is it's like Spain's ketchup. Okay, I'll explain it later. So anyway, that's what happened. Thought about this and I thought about that and ended up being like so many things with the prime rib. Okay, the first thing you're gonna get is a corn chowder. Okay, because bacon takes a while to cook, I took the liberty of cooking the bacon ahead of time. Okay, and this one is kind of simple. It starts off with bacon, and after you kind of cooked it off, I use the fat to cook the onions and celery. Okay, I have a couple of bay leaves in there, and I have a sprig of fresh thyme. I've done this without flour, and it's just fine because I put a lot of guts inside. But tonight I'm going to add just a little bit. You can see this, right? Okay. So the fat and the flour, they call that a roux. Okay. Now this happens pretty fast. After you cook the flour and the fat a little bit, you add some chicken stock. Okay? When you add your flour to the fat, like turkey gravy, okay, and you add your stock, if your roux is hot, make sure your turkey stock is cold. Okay? If this is cold, this can be hot. When both are hot, as soon as you put that hot stock on, you get this explosion. Okay? And that's probably when you're going to get your lumps. Okay? And whether it's hot or cold, you add a little bit at a time, so you allow the flour to swell up slowly and take in the liquid. Okay? So now, this part is pretty easy. Okay? Milk. Now, I took a bag of corn. Now, this is frozen corn. Okay? And I put this in a food processor. So what this does is the starch in here is going to help thicken up the soup. Think where cornstarch comes from. Okay? The other half of the corn. I put chopped ham in there and I got some cream. That happened pretty quick, huh? What's got to happen is you got to cook the flour out now. That's going to take about 20-30 minutes. Okay, you turn them down, you put them on simmer. The last thing that goes in is a cubed potato. Now, one trick, if you don't want to put flour in there, okay, you take another tub of potatoes, you take some soup and you blend it. That potato acts as like a starch to thicken this up. And just like clam chowder, everybody's definition of thick is different, right? Some like the spoon standing up like that by itself. Some actually like it kind of watery. It's all personal preference. Okay, we can serve this. Now, I saved some plain like this, but the soup tonight actually has sauteed chorizo. Okay, basically two kinds of chorizo. The Spanish kind is hard, and the Mexican kind is wet. Okay, so this is the wet kind. They sell it here already prepared. All I did was saute it. I'm going to add it to the soup. It's got a little bit of spice in it. So I saved some for those that don't want the chorizo inside. How many don't want the chorizo inside? Okay, good. Okay. So you just saute it in a pan and add the chorizo. You can add as much or as little as you want. This is great with eggs in the morning. Okay. This is good with it, almost anything. That you can see the red color. Okay, that was this is probably achote or anato seeds. Okay, how many of you cook salmon at home? Okay, how many of you, when you cook salmon, you see this white protein coming out of the salmon? Okay, they call it albumin. Okay, so I cook a lot of salmon at home. One of the ways to avoid that is temperature of your pan. But I like to take the salmon, as soon as I cut it, prepare it, I season it with salt and let it sit for as long as I possibly can. Okay, and once again, I let it come to room temperature. So when you think, if you're gonna cook it right away, you let it come to room temperature because it cooks faster in the pan. Because that internal temperature is just rising, right? So it has a higher starting point if it's at room temperature. So one trick, season your salmon all the way around. If you want a good sear, as soon as you put the salt on it, it will sweat, moisture. Okay, salt takes moisture out. You need to kind of damp it. Okay, because it's that water will prevent you from getting it brown. So I'm testing the oil. Okay, I can tell if it's going to stick to the pan. So sometimes you make the mistake of trying to flip it too early and it's stuck to the bottom of the pan. Okay. Okay, you see what I just did? I took it off the fire. Okay? If you are at all hesitant with fish, okay, the higher the fat, the more forgiving the fish can be. But this taking it away like this, that's going to save you a lot of time and trouble because it's continuing to cook. But it's cooking at a very low rate that gives you time to go do other stuff. Yeah? So this is called carryover cooking. So another example of carryover cooking, this was taken out at 110. Before it starts to go down, it will rise to 120 something. Okay, it continues to cook. The internal heat keeps it going. So I chose this dish because it's kind of simple. It's simple, but it's not simple. Okay, I'm gonna make brown butter. Now the butter is foaming. Okay, here, see, it's foaming now, right? Now it's just starting to turn brown. Okay, as it starts to turn brown, the bubbles kind of subside, and you can see it's getting brown. Okay, now instead of lemon juice, I'm going to add yuzu juice. Okay, and everything else stays the same. Yuzu juice, little parsley, I add some capers. So as soon as I add the parsley, it starts sizzling. I add a little bit of yuzu, Add little capers. And the dish is done. So I don't know if you heard this one. Okay, take your hand and go like this. Okay, that's rare. Go like that. That's medium. Fist is well done. Okay, now that's for meat, not for fish. I'm just trying to explain there's a theory. For this one, okay, you know the canned tuna, the chunk kind. Imagine you open the canned tuna, you put them on a plate, take a fork, and you press down on them. Okay, when you press down on them, you see the layers, the muscle, just separate like this. Okay, now I gotta get my brain to tell my finger, or my finger tell my brain, is it slipping? It's not slipping. Okay. Also visually I can see. Can you see that? So that's how easy this dish can be. And you don't have to use yuzu, you can use lemon juice. Okay, now what I'm gonna add is, this is simply panko and minced garlic cooked in a 1-to-1 ratio of oil and butter. Okay, I'm toasting the breadcrumbs. Okay, if you go to some parts of Italy, they call this the poor man's parmesan. Okay, and so it has this crispy kind of texture to it. It's a butter sauce, so it's going to soak it all up, and it's going to have a little bit of garlic. Lee made these croutons. Okay, avocado oil, and this one has some Parmesan cheese. The purpose of these croutons, you can use either or. Okay, when you see this dish in a French restaurant, you will see the croutons, and the croutons are there to soak up the butter and also give you some texture to this thing. Okay, this particular one, besides the salmon is fatty. Okay, the yuzu is acid, and there's butter, the brown butter, fat and acid. Okay, capers, salty. So you don't want it that salty, don't add that much capers. You don't want it that acid, put less yuzu or less lemon juice. Okay, I got 2 potato dishes. One's almost like a mashed potato. The other one, I went lighter, I went to Spain, and it's a roasted potato. It's like a wedge with a romesco sauce. A romesco sauce, I told you, Spain's ketchup, charred tomatoes, charred red bell peppers in the blender. I put some anchovies. That was my sodium. Okay? Peppers are sweet. I added piquillo peppers. So I took the tomato, I took the red bell pepper, I charred them. I took the piquillo peppers, the jarred, they're available next door. They're kind of sweet. They cook up like a pimento or a pepper. They're a specific kind of pepper. Okay? And so the thing with romesco is, or a lot of things in Spain, it's thickened with ground nuts. Okay? Ground nuts, a little bit of red wine vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, and that's it. No butter, no cream in this one. This is the one that has the butter and cream. Okay? This is just a different way of making mashed potatoes. Okay? Imagine if you did not have a potato ricer. Imagine if you did not have a potato masher. Okay? So these are russet potatoes. They're cut about 1 inch thick. And I put milk and cream. Okay, more milk than cream. Now you saw me put the first 2 pats of butter. Now when I covered it with foil, and I'm gonna steam them. Okay? And when they get cooked, I'm just gonna smash them. In the cream, in the milk, in the butter. Okay. So you cook the potatoes in one pan. You kind of smash them in one pan. And you serve them in the same pan. So it's the same dish. The corn soup, I forgot to tell you, it's a 1-pot soup dish. Okay, any questions on this technique here? Okay, so now cutting the potatoes, peeling the potatoes. That took about 10 minutes. Steaming them took about 15 minutes. And I'm here and I'm kind of mashing them. And if you like them really, you know, mashed, you just spend more time doing this. Okay? Until you get something like that. Okay? So this is like this. Okay? And you only got milk, cream, salt, butter, and I'm going to add Parmesan cheese. Okay? All right, there's a dish out there, okay? I'm thinking, okay, these are like rich French dishes. These are like Mediterranean dishes. And I thought, what about my own heritage? Okay? So, you're going to have a pickle there. Cucumber, Japanese cucumber. I'm going to come 3 times. Any questions? Turn them 1/3. Turn them the next third. Okay, you cannot see, but the secret here, the angle of your knife, okay, if you look really good, it's never going to hit past the center line. You see them? How many of you know what Tokyo negi is? It is a baby leeka, like a large green onion. Okay, so imagine if somebody told you to go dice the green onion. How are you going to do them? You're going to do them like an onion, like this way, then this way. Okay, so if you take that green onion and you're going to mince it, you do this. And when you go down like this, it all turns to mince. Okay, so I got my cucumber, kind of like as a snake. Okay. And just like quick tsukimono or quick pickle, you salt it first. Yeah. It's like kimchi. You put the salt on the cabbage or the daikon. Okay. And then you let it sit. And what you're letting it sit for is the salt to go in and the water to come out. Okay. So when that happens, I cut it into cubes like that. This is really salty, okay? So I'm not going to eat them. But you get all these cross cuts. And anything you put, if it's like a pickle, like a namasu, if it's a salt pickle, it goes in all the little grooves. You're making kimchi, it goes all inside. Okay? If you took miso, it goes all inside. Ume paste. So there is a honey, ume, miso dressing on top of that cucumber. Okay? And I thought it has a little acid to it, has a little sweetness to it, but it's a nice texture. And I thought that would be a relief, okay? Like a dill pickle would be to a Reuben sandwich. So with the prime rib, you got 2 options. One is this thing called French word, au jus. Au is pronounced like O. Okay? Jus simply means the juices that came from the roast. Okay? So this is a beef juice that's going to be served with the prime rib. But now, for an alternative, I'm going to make something else that kind of comes from Spain. Everybody is making chimichurri now. So I'm calling this a salsa verde, or I'm going to call this an olive relish. Okay? So this relish is got a lot of things going on. It's got acid, it's got salt in different forms. Olives are salty. And you got fat. Okay? This would be an alternative to your jus, or you could eat your prime rib with the jus and with this. This would be great with a steak. You know, a grilled steak with chimichurri is very popular today. Then you got all kinds of chimichurri. Okay? There's even a red chimichurri, an Argentinian red chimichurri. Okay, I got some green olives here. Okay? Green and black Niçoise olives. Okay, capers. Capers are also salty. Not gonna add as much. Okay, I'm gonna add some minced shallots. Okay, now keep in mind you can add anything you like. Okay, if I call it an olive relish, well, there's gonna be olives in it. Okay, this is a minced garlic. You don't like garlic, you don't have to add the garlic. Okay? Now, normally there are nuts or seeds. So these are chopped pistachio nuts. Okay? You could use chopped almonds, you could use pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, almonds. These are pistachios. Okay? Then I have a lot of Italian parsley. Okay. I like to add this one in. Cocoa nibs. Okay. And the thing that binds all of this together is some kind of oil or fat. You notice I didn't add any salt to this, yeah? Okay. Now, don't get alarmed. This is going to take a lot. Okay. So what I'm getting is, I'm getting acid. I'm getting bitter from the olives. I'm getting a lot of things going on. There's no heat in here. Unless sometimes the garlic might give off heat, but there's not a lot of garlic. Okay. And I got the fat. The fat balances everything out. So we get potatoes two ways. We got the jus. We got this olive relish. Okay. And two different things. One is I'm going to call it a Filipino-inspired tomato salad. What I like to do is, if you see this pan, I cut the tomatoes a little thinner and I salted them. Now, when I salted them, you see the juice that's coming out? That is tomato water, okay? But it's slightly red. I like to use this as part of the salad. I don't drain it, I don't throw it away. That's tomato flavor, that's acid. Sliced onions, very thin. Okay, ginger. Soy sauce. I would say go easy because we're going to add the fish sauce. Okay. So fish sauce is sodium. In the end, I'm just going to check if there's enough seasoning. Okay. Now, what Lee is making back there is a salad, okay, which has a cilantro and lime dressing. So once again, the lime in the dressing is acid. It helps with the beef. So I've made a couple of rich things and I've made a couple of things that are lighter because of the acid. Okay. Some people like this right here. Yeah. How's that? $130. This is the ribeye. You can stay as long as you like, but as far as me up here, I just want to say thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Chef So. Thank you. Hope to see you again one day soon.